What was ruined for everyone by one single person? The name Adolf has gotta be up there. Absolutely. At a previous job, we got full uniforms. Shirts, pants, hats, hoodies, winter coveralls, winter coats, gloves. But we don't get shoes or boots. Turns out a couple of years before I was hired on, they used to give boots. But one guy would take his boots and sell them, then request a replacement, then sell those. He did this about 20 times before anybody caught on because of municipal bureaucracy being slow to notice. When they caught on, they stopped giving out boots to their employees. The guy who attempted to smuggle a bomb in his shoe in 2001. Now we all have to suffer taking our shoes off at airport security every damn time we fly. Also, whoever did the thing with liquids that convinced security that more than 3.4 ounces of shampoo was potentially deadly can fuck right off. The person who apparently choked on a lollipop at my bank and now we don't get lollipops anymore. Honestly, we could blame their insurance company. I worked at a froyo place and after a certain number of visits you will get a free cup. Technically the rule was up to $5. However, the owner of the store was really nice and said, nah, if they come here that often, then they should get their one cup free. For a few years it was going well, since it's self-serve and based on weight. Most people were careful about making their cups and never really overfilling. Sometimes kids would be a little overzealous, but no one really did anything crazy. Eventually one day, a guy who in all honesty was smart, I'll give him that, filled the cup to the brim. Then added our waffle cone chips around the edges to create a barrier. He dispensed even more froyo. Then made another wall on top of that. He did this about 6 times. To be honest, I was very invested, and also just amazed at how he did this. The average price for a small that was decently filled with toppings, most people were in the $5 to $7 range. This dude managed to make this a $27 cup. For free. Because technically it just has to fit into the one cup. The owner asked me about that suspicious transaction and I told him all about it. He was like, oh okay. Check the cameras, and even he was impressed. This dude ended up telling other people, who then told more people and so on. At this point our store was actually losing money on the free cups. It got worse because now people were trying to cram so many toppings into their cups that about 90% of the toppings would end up on the floor, so that was costing us even more. Eventually we changed up the policy to the $5 max. People weren't happy, but we all gladly explained that people were getting out of hand and we were trying to do something nice, and it was taken advantage of. Previous job I had used to be hybrid twice a week. One person on their hybrid day decided to slack off work and go out. They got a call from their manager because they were late for a virtual meeting and the manager heard a lot of background noise like they were at the mall or something. Said person eventually admitted they were not home working, got fired, and now everyone had to be in the office 5 days a week. Here I am sitting in my office moving my mouse every couple minutes while using Reddit on my phone as living proof that you can also slack off when at the office. When I worked as an EMT, I would regularly work out for an hour, play video games using the company phone Wi-Fi, and take a nap before the first call would even come in. I also taught myself to do some programming on shift between calls as well. One time I managed to work on one of my cars as well. You definitely don't need to be home to slack off. At a certain point in US Army basic training, your platoon is given the opportunity to sit and eat without having to wait for the entire company. And with that comes the fact that if one person is finished eating, we're all finished eating. This one trainee who happened to sit early finished his dinner before the other side of the table even got to start. He stood up, though the DS promptly made everyone else get up too, eaten or not. This same trainee did the exact same thing the next day, except now it was breakfast, so a few people didn't get dinner or breakfast. I'll never forget the nasty shit they did to his bunk and locker dude. Couldn't really feel bad for him. And you best believe nobody stood up early for the rest of BCT. Edit, what did they do to his bunk? They took the used dirty mop bucket water, pissed in it, and dumped over his bunk and foot locker. This happened on a Sunday morning, which is the one day the DS will leave you alone till noon. The perpetrator was at church, lol. I'm actually shocked that retribution didn't happen after the first lost meal. 'Cause the first time is an accident, the second time you're an intentional dick. Back around the mid-2000s I was around 10 years old, and I used to go to this place after school called the Boys and Girls Club. They had an area with multiple basketball hoops on a court which we used to play all kinds of games in, one of those games being dodgeball. These were not those big rubber balls, but instead the styrofoam-filled balls with kind of a thin layer of plastic, so otherwise harmless. One of the kids thought it would be a good idea to shove a rock into one of the balls and throw it at someone he didn't like. Well, he ended up throwing it right into that kid's face and broke 2 of his front teeth. We never played dodgeball again. That's some prison yard shit. I work in a prison and the inmates all act like dangerous 5-year-olds. The elementary school I went to let 6th graders go on an overnight trip to a lodge where we could go skiing and snow tubing. My dad volunteered as a parent and was supervising by letting me and 5 other girls pile on top of one tube down a steep hill, and we all went flying. 2 of the girls busted their arms when we all landed in a pile. It looked like a cartoon. Anyway, after that, no more sleepovers at the lodge, and tale has it 30 years later everyone at the school still blames my dad, lol. Every policy at every company I've ever worked at or owned was because of one person abusing something. So whenever you wonder, why the hell do we have to do this? It's because of one a-hole who ruined it for everyone else. We had to have cameras installed to monitor who comes in and out of the ladies' bathrooms and when, because of one person who kept deliberately taking dumps on the floor next to a toilet and covering it in a pile of loose toilet paper. This happened in my middle school. Every student knew damn well who it was and it was reported for months. But no, it couldn't be Shelby, she's so sweet and a teacher's pet. We need cameras. Guess what? It was fucking Shelby. At one of my previous workplaces, management played music as a way of promoting good mood. They played all sorts of genres so everyone got a chance to listen to something they liked. One person complained that sometimes they had to listen to music they didn't like, so they stopped playing music altogether. This happened at my workplace too. I drive school bus, and we used to be allowed to play music on the buses. Most drivers enjoyed finding out what channels the kids liked and getting sing-alongs going. And no, making everyone happier. Then some crazy Karen mom called the dispatch office screeching about her daughter coming home talking about a song this Karen apparently thought was evil or something, and now we aren't allowed to play anything on the radio while kids are on the bus. Mark Zuckerberg fucked up so many brains and relationships and other things I'm not sure what to say. The guy in Texas, I think, who ordered a huge meal for his last meal on death row and refused to eat it. They no longer offer a last meal request because of him. That executive at HP who said, "You know, people love our printers. They are tough and reliable and work for decades. We should make them suck, break constantly. License the ink, make it all internet linked so the printer won't even work when the Wi-Fi is down." COVID. It ruined snow days for kids because now they can just log in at home on their computers instead. That's just horseshit to me. Let the kids have a snow day. Oh damn, the snow must have shut the power down in my neighborhood. The guy who ruined Halloween for everyone by poisoning and killing his own kid with a pixie stick. Now everyone thinks people just hand out poison candy because this a-hole started a mass panic. I couldn't even eat my candy corn growing up because they were loose unwrapped candy, as if anyone is tampering with candy corn. Seriously, my parents had such a hard rule against anything not hermetically sealed, and it was such a waste of good candy because of all the hype over sickos when it wasn't even a neighbor, but a parent who lied that ruined the whole thing for everybody. When I was a kid, my grandpa's neighbors owned a really popular local bakery. Every year for Halloween, they would make a bunch of maple bars to take home and hand out instead of candy. It was the best. Everyone loved it. No one would be able to do that today. Parents would throw a fit about unwrapped food and baked goods. Lately, artists who are performing on stage are not having fun anymore. Why? Because one clown threw an object that actually hurt the artist and suddenly it started happening over and over again, along with making more artists reluctant to perform or interact with the crowd. I used to work for state government in Alaska. I was reviewing some department policies to update, and I noticed a particular statement in the employee behavioral policy about adhering to basic hygiene, expected, and wearing clothes at work, not expected. I went to my boss to ask him about that, and the look on his face told me I was in for a good story. Our department had satellite offices all over the state and in some very rural, very isolated areas. These were nothing but glorified shacks. Local fire brigade shows up to one of our shacks in middle of nowhere to find a department employee standing outside the burnt building, in the nude. In February. Turned out that the guy, who was the only on-site employee, happened to be a nudist. Now, no one can work naked for the state of Alaska. What a bummer. That influencer who jumped into the alligator habitat at Busch Gardens, now there's a big chain link fence, and you can't see the alligators anymore. What was ruined for everyone by one single person? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.